How many parts of speech does English have? Ha, passing along a classroom question from your grammar teacher there. Maybe you remember your school days and can name them all. Well, now let's talk about other languages. Have you ever wondered if they have the same list? Today we get animated about parts of speech your textbook was hiding from you. Dramatic. Well, at least let's expand that old list. And then, sneaky surprise, we'll meet languages that shake up the parts of speech grammarians have taken for granted for centuries. Set the scene. English class. It's grammar time. Teacher points to several terms in your textbook. They start short, but down the list they grow into this long Latinate jargon. These are the parts of speech. Every word falls into one of these. You study the labels, memorize them, then analyze each word in a sentence as you run it through the parts of speech strainer. Then again, some of you were real language nerds. I bet reading dictionaries was your hobby and you were busy absorbing jargon osmotically. Either way, we learned an old story, older than I knew, as dusty manuscripts made clear to me while researching for this. Anyhow, at first I found them tiresome, but once said speech parts wormed their way into my brain, I couldn't stop. I'd pull grammars off shelves and feel tickled any time I bumped into a word class I never imagined a language could have. Years since have pulled my focus elsewhere, like animation. And other things have been tugging at my heart, like these causes of the people. More about them when we wrap up. But now I find myself looking back at the part of speech collection I've been sitting on. Before dizzying and dazzling us with them, a quick note. While making this, I did peek at stricter criteria from people closer to these examples, from the theories to the cultures they're knotted up with. I got bogged down and made a whole sources document out of it. But here, today, can we just list the fun stuff? Let's warm up with loose ends from 2 prior videos. You've heard of verbs. Well, Mongolic languages have those. Maybe you're comfy with participles. Lucky you. What about converbs? They turn verbs into something adverbial. Before doing, after doing, if doing. To Mongolia's south and east, a swath from Ainu to Malay is home to classifiers. You might count paper by sheets or tea by the cup. Well, Thai also has counters for people, most animals, circular slices, heaps of stuff, and ... Speaking of, numerals themselves were traditionally considered a part of speech in Lithuanian, a practice one cynic scrutinizes as useless. Instead, head back to classifier-rich languages to meet one that officially does not count classifiers among its official parts of speech, but does number numerals among its 9 pumsha parts of speech. The next language, Karinya, agrees on numerals, but not on prepositions. Like so many languages, they put postpositions after words. Another friendly channel reminder that adpositions are a thing. Remember Siberia's languages? We met many of them, including one that smushes the number and classifier together. Indeed, Nifk numerals are themselves count words that sort every noun into one of 27 boxes. Let's wrap up our warm-ups with a good stretch. One dictionary I use for this channel splits all words in Te Reo Maori into meaning-rich bases versus particles that surround those bases. What's the sound of someone smiling? Japanese goes big on ideophones, words that imitate a sound, a feeling, a sense, or an image. And in Nigeria, Kuteb expressives include the same senses, plus a set of odor or smell words. Not too far away, Eboze has insultatives used in jokes, epithets, and, as the name implies, insults. Oh, way to the south, but still in the same language family, Xhosa ideophones are audibly distinctive. A number are borrowed from Nama speakers, and these are much more likely to contain click consonants than the average Xhosa word. Okay, this audience has watched me struggle to write classic Maya. This frequent word in inscriptions is a positional, relating someone's position, form, or shape. Jumlach, enthroned, instead of sat would have been jumach. And this one is an affective. From the loud bach of a hammer, we get bachlach, hammering. Understandably, my textbook taught these under verbs, but to other linguists, they're distinct. Across the lowlands, Mayatan today tightly interweaves voice and gesture. The word beyo draws the eyes. When you hear beitak or bukach, watch for a hand to disambiguate height or size. Meaning remains incomplete without this visual vocal interplay. On hands or tongues, language is language. But let's talk sign languages. Papers I've read did seem to highlight a few signing specific parts of speech. First on the list is a list of first, second, anything or anyone you're keeping track of in conversation, really. Pointing to fingers on the non-dominant hand is a strategy with a number of uses, and a name that I love, buoys, like in the ocean. Beyond hands, there are facial adverbials, mouth morphemes like rounded lips, puffed cheeks, raised or lowered eyebrows, and beyond faces, consider the head shake in katakolok or body shift in ASL. A conceptually tricky one for a mention and run, but let's try. The use of sign space and eye gaze at its most basic involves pointing and looking, a strategy that yields indexicals, including demonstratives and what experts debate are or are not personal pronouns. In some languages, though not you Libras, but yes you Auslan, sign space gets used for depictive/classifier predicates. And I'll stop there, lest we pour the rest of our time today into what one line of research calls polycomponential verbs. Mouthful much? Lots left. Let's pick up the pace. Philippine languages, which are different from Philippine-type languages, we should talk, but Austronesian languages of the Philippines have a short linker whose big job is to show up when another word is being modified. Blagar elevationals include unelevated here and there, as well as elevationals to mark locations that are higher than, lower than, or level with you. In parallel, there are verbs and demonstratives that also distinguish unelevated, high, mid, and low places. Creoles. Now there's a term, one some writers are swaying me to think is more social than linguistic, but linguists tend to analyze them as analytic, turning up bunches of these small markers. In Bislama, there's a plural marker before nouns, and a little e that marks predicate agreement. Juba Arabic simply uses a ta for possession, and in Belize, cho is a discourse marker for engaging in rough talk. In Micronesia, and this is a familiar tune throughout the Pacific, Satawalis has directional particles. Away, towards, upwind, downwind, inland, seaward. A voyage won't only involve going, but going in one of these directions. There's also a history of using linguistic prowess to form an island chain relief system, but some other time. Yucatec Maya Sign Language has a body shift that's rare in the West, turning fully away mid-conversation to abide by a geocentric frame of reference when showing how something was done or placed. Since we're hopping around so much, how about check? When verbs overlap, one happens while the other does, you may need the transitional or transgressive. It sits vaguely between participle, adverbial, and converb. Sandawe has mediative markers. You may know clitics, pronounced together with a host word but do their own grammatical work. Well, these clitics hook onto stuff to mark certainty, inferences, or yes-no questions. Tamil grammar has long analyzed everyday language and literary works alike as dynamic products of systematic transformations. Still, the number 4 does come up for nouns, verbs, structural, and indeclinable words. English. Wait, wasn't this all supposed to be about not English? Well, when computationally tagging text, it has proved handy to separate out potentially surprising parts of speech, like existential there and possessive apostrophe s. Well, so now it looks like it's English versus English. Wait, though. Computers reading Tigrinya are also instructed to spot 9 expected word classes, but the tag set includes oddities as well, like punctuation and unclassified, so we should take a moment to acknowledge the idiosyncrasies of tagging digital text. Moments passed. Garifuna time. They wobble a list a bit when they sideline pronouns, inflect prepositions for person, number, gender, and case, and employ negators that follow their own logic. Garifuna wobbliness will portend the grammatical trials ahead. Swedish Sign Language assigns a name sign to community members. Broadly speaking, we could call them proper nouns, but with their own conventions for creation and usage, such as no vocatives, sign names have become their own subject of studies. Possessive classifiers are unlike the classifiers we met before, those focused on a noun's form when counted. These are about a noun's function when possessed. If a language has two, one is usually more immediate or, quote, inalienable than the other. Her book by her that she wrote, or her book of her that she finished reading. Then again, anum in Papua New Guinea has far more than two. South from there, Northern Australian languages split the job of a verb in two. IVs are a closed set tasked with inflecting for pesky grammatical stuff like tense, and UVs are numerous, open, and carry verbal meanings, but are never inflected. Distant but close in spirit, Chichimasha has a set of preverbs for marking direction or aspect before the verb. Other tense aspect mood markers also struck me as not dissimilar. Soninke predicate markers also convey polarity, while Akuwencherenti adds person to the mix. Many sign languages have a set of size and shape specifiers that represent the dimensions and outlines of objects being talked about. Remember Mishtek? One relative, Itunyoso Triki, is also highly tonal, and ends sentences with 39 final particles. Bonus puzzle. If these question particles match the verb's aspect, an aspect must flip in negative sentences, how would I end a sentence asking what you might not do tomorrow? Whew, tired yet? So I've added and added and added to our list, but after building up, time to break down. To avoid a steep drop into doubt, take 4 shallow steps with me. Hishkariana has a general modifier instead of adjectives and adverbs. Some find one in Dutch too. West Greenlandic uses verbs for your adjectives, which is actually a common approach in North America, and not only. You again, Korean? Tupi and Guarani are all nouns and verbs, despite efforts of colonial grammars to squeeze out other parts of speech. And then there's Turkish, which I'm assured has but verbs and nonverbs. Not nouns, because nonverbs do other work. Okay, now help me cast doubt by wondering about big, flexible, or what even are parts of speech. Last examples, and then we part. As a kid, I fondly recall opening a mini Navajo dictionary to a list of 15 parts of speech. Well, scrutiny boils all those down to 3: nouns, verbs, the rest are particles. Which reminds me of the classic take on Arabic grammar. It's the same 3 boxes. The word-likeness of those particles can get messy, like the many clitic forms in Palestinian Arabic. And Oneida likewise has nouns, verbs, and particles, except kin terms have properties of both nouns and verbs, so a word seems to be able to intersect multiple classes depending on meaning. Wakashan languages mark tenses or aspects on nouns as well as verbs. Such barrier breaking suggests their verbs and nouns are, quote, mere discourse tendencies. And verbs in Ket suggest a kind of similar history of messy verbal nounness. Some of the biggest part of speech drama I've read of swirls around classical Chinese. Are word classes flexible, or are there none? And around Nahuatl omnipredicativity. Is everything just a predicate? And then claims of Mundari parts of speechlessness led me down a whole paper trail. Is it missing word classes? Do all languages really even have nouns and verbs? Well, as we wrap up, Consider how this kind of questioning of neat parts of speech cubbies also challenges something more basic. In the process of evaluating daunting caches of unread tablets, Sumerologists have concluded that the word word doesn't quite fit Sumerian. Instead, they have to resort to studying how links attach within chains. For a cautionary example, take the ventive. A small mu or just in a chain may mean I, or hither, or up, or be too slippery to grasp at all. My, this list grew long. Every item on it seems somehow both more precious and precarious than it did before I began. As minutes passed, it felt less and less like we were directly observing parts of speech, more like we got stuck in the delightful muck of language is people. Hey, look, you're people. So, what's your favorite part of speech? In which language? Did any today surprise or challenge you? Also, heartbeats to everyone who supported groups since the Mixtec video, community posts, and sources document links. It really is time for another call to understand and aid actually those same communities speaking several of the languages mentioned today. And if you create things or have a platform, there are resources where you can study up and forward the message about these struggles that intertwine with language, culture, environment, and land. We need thickets of effective clarity, long-haul stuff. That aid comes first, but if you have more to spare, join my lovely channel patrons. Thank you all for watching. Stick around and subscribe for more about languages and cultures.